Here's Barnes in a bit of space. Aldridge ahead of him. Rush inside in. Barnes might go all the way. It's in the back of the net. Barnes, a delicate chip, and it's in. A superb goal. United have been caught out here. Will they be punished? They are by John Barnes.
Well, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome none other than the legend, Mr. John Barnes. John,
how are you doing?
Great to see you.
Nice to see you too.
One place to start. It's not the end of the season. It's not Jurgen's final game. It's the after party. The rap was back out. How was it? Talk to us about the after party. Tell us a little bit of insight as to what went on.
Well, no. Listen, I've been rapping. Football was a side job. I've always been a rapper ever since I was young. No, it's just, got up on stage, did a rap. Jurgen got up to dance unexpectedly because I didn't see him all night because it's a big room. And it's not an after party as it was an after party before. The players probably only stayed for an hour and left. It was really for a few fans who were there. So it was unexpected. Not unexpected for me to rap, but unexpected for Jurgen to get up. So it was okay.
That's a given for you to take to the stage.
Absolutely.
Did you ever think that the rapping, the music side of it would play such a big part in your life? Because I imagine every time you walk down the street, people want you to get hold of a microphone.
Well, I hope that they want me to play football and recognize me for being a footballer.
Absolutely.
But lots of the young ones don't. They say, oh, I was on Strictly Come Dancing. Oh, you're a dancer. You were in that Celebrity Chef, Master Chef, and then, then he made that song. I said, I played a bit of football.
Yeah,
but it's funny because my son has sold me 3 times on FIFA. I'm on FIFA, whatever FIFA is, because I don't play computer games. And I was in London, and these young American kids came up and said, oh, will you sign these autographs? And I was only about 9. And I thought, I retired 25 years ago. I said, how do these young kids know who I am? And then as I walked away, one of them said to the other, he goes, hey, who's that guy? And he goes, he's that guy from FIFA. Yeah, but it was a bit of fun. After party, got up and Jurgen had a dance unexpectedly, so it was all right.
Did you get the chance, you mentioned big room. Did you get the chance to have that kind of personal moment with him?
No. The message that everybody's given to Jurgen is that it's just been a pleasure for him to be here for 9 years. That's not something that you're going to say at an after party when you're having fun. But I think that everybody has appreciated what he's done since he's been here. He has taken the city to his heart. He is, when you talk about people who are connected emotionally, spiritually, and from a character point of view, it's a marriage made in heaven, because Jurgen is a normal, humble guy who walks around town, walks around Formby, going to the local pub, playing games with people, which you don't get managers doing. But if you are, or if you know Scousers, that's where you have to be. You can't have airs and graces about you and be superior and supercilious and feel that you can't mix with people and walk, and it's not an act with him, because that's who he is. So therefore, I think he always picks clubs that suit his character. Dortmund is
He's always had that grand farewell, hasn't he, wherever he's been?
Because he's been successful. If you're not successful, you're not going to have a grand farewell, I can tell you. But I think because he's really invested into the city. But he also understands the culture of the people. Very much like Dortmund. I don't know whether he'll be suited to Bayern Munich. Don't know if he'll be suited to Manchester United, to Real Madrid, because of course they're different clubs in terms of not the size, not the success, but in terms of the culture of the people. And the people in Liverpool, the people in Dortmund need you to be a part of them. You can't walk around and not mix with the people and pretend you're more important than them. Whereas in other clubs you can, because in other clubs you're revered in that way, and the character of the people means that they see you apart from them. Whereas when you're at Dortmund and Liverpool, they see you as one of them. Even if you are the so-called lowest of the low, you could be just a normal fan who's works in the post office. Jurgen can't go and ignore him because he works in the post office. You have to be part of the people, and Jurgen understands that.
Does it seem almost surreal that you just wake up now and Jurgen Klopp isn't Liverpool manager?
No, because I've been around long enough. I woke up and Kenny Dalglish wasn't the manager. And once upon a time they woke up and Bill Shankly was the manager. Well, no, because with different circumstances. Because when Kenny wasn't the manager, we woke up, him being the manager the one day, us not knowing that the next day he's not going to be the manager. Whereas we've known Jurgen's not going to be the manager for months. So it's a different situation. But once again, the most important thing in football is the club continues. And Liverpool were here before Jurgen. They'll be here after Jurgen. When Bill Shankly left, it was a similar thing. So if you understand football, you know that was Jurgen going to be here for 30, 40 years? No, there was going to be a time when this happened. So I think that a lot of the fans who really, and it's for the fans, the fans are just so invested in it. And I look at it more from a professional point of view. He's been fantastic. He's been one of the top 2 managers ever at this football club, alongside Bill Shankly, as far as I'm concerned. But he's decided to go. Liverpool is still here. We've got to get behind Arne Slot, as he says. And next season, we have to forget about Jurgen. End of story. Not forget about him in terms of what he's achieved and what he's done and the love we have for him, But in terms of still wishing he was here, we have to then think about what the next step is.
Well, you mentioned Liverpool still goes on. A new man takes over in Arne Slot. What do you make of the appointment?
I don't know Arne Slot, but I trust the club enough to have made the right appointment. And it's a funny time in football, because when you talk about big clubs, I remember once upon a time, I would probably say about 5 years ago, when you had Tuchel and Ancelotti and Mourinho, and you had Pochettino, you had lots of managers who, if all of a sudden a big job came up, you've got lots of choice. Whereas now, apart from Alonso, which you could say could have been an ideal choice because of his relationship with Liverpool, not his success. He's had great success for 1 year, but he hasn't proved that he can do this over a period of time. So really, there's no one who you can then say he is the ideal man for Liverpool. So yes, it's Arne Slot. If not, it could have been Amorim. Don't know much about him either. So football is going through a funny period whereby there are not that many proven managers who are available at this point in time. But whoever the manager is who comes to Liverpool, I urge the fans, and you have to get behind him and support him. Even if they don't start off particularly well, and if he's not playing like Jurgen Klopp, we have to get behind him and support him, as Jurgen said.
Will another club find themselves looking for a top manager, hopefully, in what was a little bit of a surprise this week, that Mauricio Pochettino is leaving Chelsea? Was that a shock decision for you?
I don't know the ins and outs of it. Is that a Chelsea decision or is it a Pochettino decision?
Chelsea.
Chelsea
By
decision.
all accounts.
By all accounts. Well, of course, Pochettino is a fantastic manager. As to what Chelsea does doesn't surprise me, because Chelsea is a club that obviously, if you're going to spend billions and you're going to sack managers, you're going to bring managers in, they're going through a bit of a period where I don't know who's going to come in and do a better job than Pochettino. You have to be given time, particularly under the circumstances whereby you're changing players all the time. You've got lots of new players. When are you going to get to a situation, and Man United will have this problem, where you're going to say, this is what we believe in, we're going to stick with this for long enough, however long that is, before we then make a decision to change, because all you will then do is just keep changing all the time. Chelsea have done that. Man United is one who we don't know what's going to happen there, but that was surprising to me.
Enthralling Premier League season. Plenty of ups and downs, big title race, Arsenal back in the picture, Liverpool remaining in the picture under Jurgen, Man City of course go and make it 4 in a row. Just how big of an achievement is that? How special is this Pep Guardiola side?
Incredible. No matter what people may talk about, the 115 charges, the money they've spent, you've had people spending money. Chelsea spent a lot of money. It's because of Pep Guardiola. That's why. Liverpool is because of Jurgen Klopp. Arsenal is because of Mikel Arteta. Now, once you get a manager and you believe in him, and there are other managers who can do that if they're trusted, if they're given time, if they're given the belief. Because I remember a couple of years ago when Arteta first went and they were calling for his head when he fell out with Aubameyang, and look what happened. Now he won that battle. So they're examples of why the manager has to be the most important person at the football club, not the chief executive, not the owner, the manager, not the star player, the manager. And at those 3 clubs, the most important person, and that should be a lesson to all the clubs. So it's an incredible season, but it doesn't surprise me that those 3 teams went all the way to the wire.
Question marks over VAR. In particular, Wolves have released a statement. Should it stay? Should it go? I mean, I've always firmly been in the camp that technology is good for the game if it's utilised correctly. Where do you stand on the VAR stance?
If there was no VAR, you would make infinitely more mistakes. Infinitely more mistakes. What we do is we highlight the mistakes that it isn't VAR doesn't make mistakes. It's the interpretation of it. It's a human being. So human error is always going to be there. Now, if you look at the goals without VAR that A would have stood or A would have been chalked off, there are more. So while we want to highlight that, let's scrap VAR. Yeah? Because if you scrap VAR next year on television, we're still going to be showing the mistakes. We're still going to show that he was onside or he was offside or he was outside the area and he was inside the area. And how many more mistakes do you think we'd make? So if you're looking for perfection, VAR is not perfect, but the alternative is infinitely worse. And then to say, and of course, listen, we talk about respecting the referee. You watch Ref Watch on Sky and they highlight the mistakes that the referee makes. You put Ref Watch on without VAR, we'll be there for hours and hours and hours. So for people to then say, because it's not working, let's scrap it, okay, I'm happy with that. Let's scrap VAR, but let's not highlight the mistakes. And if it's a mistake, forget about it, because we didn't want VAR to show the mistakes. Because we're not referees on. It isn't going to happen. So what will happen is we don't have VAR, and we said, okay, because it didn't work because they were still making mistakes. When referees make more mistakes, you think the kind fans and people on television and pundits are going to go, oh, well,
the away end's going to be really
VAR,
quiet.
so it's okay. Listen, football is and even with VAR, and the football fans, of which I am, are a different animal to everybody else. So we understand in rugby you can go to the crowd and you can say this is what I believe, and you got your mic and you're saying rugby, well, because of blah blah blah. They go, okay. You think a football fan, regardless of whether the referee says to them, oh, it wasn't a free kick because blah blah, he's going to go, yeah, you're right. Come on. No. VAR isn't perfect, but it's much better than the alternative.
You are a legendary figure at Liverpool Football Club, a legendary figure throughout English football, one of the best wide players that people will have grown up watching. Are you still drawn to wide areas? I mean, this season for me, I look at the Premier League and think, are we lacking great number 9s? But we're not lacking exciting wingers. Are you drawn to those players because of your history in the game?
Wide players have changed. Wide players' role now isn't to get wide and put crosses in. You get the width from the fullbacks if they want to do that. So therefore, I would have been playing like Mo Salah, or like if Phil Foden plays out there, or Jack Grealish, if those right-footed, playing on the right. So wide players have always been around. They're not in the orthodox wingers like myself, or Chris Waddle. But you always have to have width in football. It doesn't matter who it comes from. It could come from the fullback, it does sometimes. Sometimes it comes from one of the wide free midfield players for Liverpool, possibly Harvey Elliott, although he's playing on the right while he's left-footed. So there's nothing new in football. It's just that we don't have apart from Haaland, who could have played in our day, where you just get down the line, put crosses in, and he'll score. You don't have number 9s who do that anymore. So I think that the width in football now is still necessary, but it's different because of the nature of the centre forward to the width when I played.
How would you, let's say you're in charge of a Liverpool Premier League outfit, you've got 2 wide players, one prefers to be inverted, one is direct and prefers to go out on the outside of the touchline, get to the byline and put cross in. How would you instruct them to run their game throughout the 90 minutes? What do you feel is still the best way to get at fullbacks and create
First of all, I would say to him, this is what I want from my team, and you have to fit into what my team wants. So if, for example, John Barnes, as an example, is the best left winger in the world, 200 million pounds I'm going to cost, I get so many crosses in.
Might even be a bit more than that, John.
300 million, whatever. Free transfer, I get all the money. But the team I'm going to don't play that type of football because they've got a 5'2" centre forward. What's the point of John Barnes playing there? So if someone says to me, oh, I'm a winger, I want to go down and put crosses in, and I say, well, no, I don't want you to do that. So therefore, what you have to do, this is what Liverpool do, this is what Arsenal do, this is what Manchester City do. Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta knows how they want every position to function, and the players have to fit into that. So therefore, Kai Havertz can't say, well, this is what I want to do. He has to do what Arteta tells him to do in that position. And Odegaard is the same thing. So, what most clubs do is they look for players, as you say, the best left winger, the best centre forward, the best midfield player who tackles, and they sign him. And then it's like, well, hang on a second, our team don't play that way, so what use is he? So therefore, the manager has to have a template of how he wants to play, and then pick the players to fit into what he wants. And of course, that's a big problem, because when you come to a club, you may have an idea of how you want your team to play, but the players can't do that. Are you going to give them time to either change the way the players play, or to get the players in that you want? So I use Calvin Phillips as an example. Of course, he went from Leeds and he's gone to Manchester City, and it hasn't worked for him. It's not because he's a bad player. It's just that the way City play doesn't suit him. And you've seen so many players go from other clubs to different clubs, and either they do really well or they don't. And it's not because they're bad players. It's because the situation doesn't suit them. Now, you can use Liverpool as an example in that, whereby if you look at the Liverpool players who've left Liverpool, the Manes and the Firminos and the Hendersons and the Milners and these players who were fantastic for Liverpool, they go to other clubs and they aren't as successful because the way Jurgen Klopp plays suited them. Bernardo Silva is a fantastic player. He could never play for Liverpool. Not because he's better, he's worse, because he suits the way Man City plays, because that's what Pep Guardiola wants. And that's the ideal for any manager at a football club, to get players, but first of all, you have to have an idea of how you want your players to perform, how you want the system to work, how you want the tactics to work, and then you pick players out to go into that position.
It's almost, I mean, I've loved watching Elise and Eze this season at Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And I
love both of them.
I almost think if you're going to go after Eze, please go and take Elise with him. Please keep them together.
Yeah, and
build
so Man City should buy both of them and then get rid of Phil Foden and Jack Grealish and everybody else. You can't have too many Ezes and Elise. And what Crystal Palace do, which is why their balance is perfect, is they allow a big centre forward to get hold of the ball, and those two do what they do. Two holding midfield players, everybody else defends, and they're the creativity. You put them in a team at Man City where you got Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva, and Jack Grealish and everybody else, there's only one football.
How does that transpire? I mean, you took charge of Jamaica, of course. How does that transpire to international management? Because, like you say, you're almost dealt a little bit of a hand.
Absolutely. International management, it is not ideal because you're getting other people's players. So Portugal, when they get Bernardo Silva and these players, they're Man City players, and the Portuguese manager has got 11 different players playing different styles of football. I've got 1 week to put something in place. So I can't say. That's what happened with me when I played for England, and I wasn't playing as well for England as I was for Liverpool. And then Bobby Robson used to say, "Why don't you play in the same play? I want you to play in the same way for England as you do for Liverpool." I said, "Well, if England played the way Liverpool did, I would." And we've seen it so often, whereby there are certain players who don't play as well for their country as they do for their club. It's because the football is completely different. There are certain players who even do better for their country than their club. I remember Darius Vassell, who always did well for England. You have certain players who do well for England and at their club they're okay because the football suited them. So, but international football is much more difficult because the manager, and that's why it'd be difficult, in my opinion, for Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola to be an international manager, because they have to have complete control over everything that the players do in terms of their performances. And international football isn't like that. International football, you're getting them for a week before the game, massage their egos, make them feel good, and they're good in Gareth, go out and play. Yeah, and you have that. Whereas I think that some managers like the day-to-day involvement of saying, you're going to be influenced 100% by me and by nobody else. And international managers don't do that.
So how do you feel Gareth will go this summer? Because again, when you describe the players that are at his disposal, you can't really avoid Bukayo Saka. But he plays in a certain way that is different to how Phil Foden plays at Manchester City.
So what has happened in England?
How do you fit Cole Palmer into that system?
That's the thing. They have good enough players to be competitive. Yeah. So therefore, because of their individual quality and the good attacking players they have, they can win. As we've shown when we got to the semi-final, got to the final. Obviously, we haven't got that step further, but England have now maximised their potential by getting to the final, getting to the semi-final, having good enough players to win football matches. Lots of technical players. When I played for England, it was different because the laws of the game were such that technical players could be kicked.
You were targeted.
And the referee wouldn't give free kicks, so therefore it's difficult. Whereas now it's much easier to be a technical player because no one can tackle you. So, and that is when England really started to, I'll say, in the last 20 years, because before we concentrated on our physicality, how strong we were, and we were strong and physical. And we had a couple of technical players, myself and Chris Waddle, Glenn Hoddle, who was the most technical player I've ever seen in this country, even to this day, but never appreciated by England because back then it wasn't about technique, it was about fighting. Whereas now it's about technique, so we've got so many good technical players. What we need to do now, which we haven't, we've kind of like come full circle, concentrating more on the technique, we don't concentrate on defenders anymore. Whereas before England were always strong defenders and good strong defensive midfield players. Now we've got so many technical players, but from the defensive point of view, right at the highest level, playing at the highest level, sometimes we get caught short. So the balance for me still isn't right. And I'll use John Stones as an example. Absolutely incredible for Man City because the way they play, but for England it's different. But we still have good enough players to warrant us believing that we can go and win the Euros or the World Cup.
Are you surprised by the omissions to the squad? In particular, we talk about Marcus Rashford. I look at that and think we have great technically gifted players in that kind of 10 role and the inside forwards role. Almost lacking someone who's able to be direct. Are you surprised by the fact he's been left out?
I am a little bit surprised because, of course, I've always said, Harry Maguire, I've always said England are at the stage now whereby Gareth, and with international football, there are certain players who are more suited to international football. Harry Maguire is one for me. More suited to international football. You have more time. You don't defend high up the pitch and high press. So therefore, he's not the most mobile, and 1-against-1s maybe he can get. But the way England plays suits him. Marcus Rashford was also one. I always think he would do better internationally. You get more space. In England, where it's much more difficult for the strikers, lots of people around and they're very aggressive. You get much more space in international football, lots of room to run around, and that suits him. But I think that what has worked against Marcus is the fact that the players in his positions at different clubs this season have done so well. You mentioned Saka, you mentioned Cole Palmer, Jack Grealish is obviously there. You know, you have other players who are doing really well. And I've always felt there are certain times when players, even if they're not doing well for their clubs or even playing for their clubs, like Harry Maguire, is in the squad. And I think Marcus was at that stage, as much as he did well for Man United 2 years ago, but he was at that stage whereby even if he wasn't doing well for Man United, you'd have him in. But the quality players we have now who are doing so well for their clubs, you couldn't really leave them out in favour of Marcus because they're worth their place in the squads. The attacking number 10s or the attacking midfield players, if you like.
He's had a lot of spotlight on him this season. I mean, there was the game fairly recently where fans were having a go at him. We had the thing when he was over in Belfast when he said that he missed training, he was supposedly injured. Has that gone against him as well? Do you feel that kind of off the field element to it?
Not necessarily, because I think Gareth has been very, very loyal regardless of what happens off the field, as we've seen with players in the past. I just feel that he has a multitude of options and under different circumstances. With the players who are in his position not doing as well, he would have gone. So I don't think that the off-the-field problems or fans having a good... Gareth doesn't respond to fans having a good people because you wouldn't have Harry Maguire there then, would you? You know, so I don't think that's the issue. I just think that it's unfortunate that we have a glut of those attacking wide players who are doing really well at this moment.
Should we win it?
No, we shouldn't, but we could. We can win it. If you are in the top 4, you know who should win it? The number 1 team. Are we the number 1 team? No, so why should we win it? Because we're English? But if you're in the top 4, then you should say, yes, we have a chance of winning it.
Tournament football, anything can happen?
Tournament football, so we could lose. That's the thing. You know, anything can happen. So we say tournament football we can win, tournament football we can lose. We could play so well against France, who are, you know, in my opinion, the best team in Europe, and play well against them and hit the post 20 times. They have one lucky shot, they win 1-0. That's what club football does. I remember in 1990, our best performance was against Germany when we lost. We were lucky against Belgium, we were lucky against Cameroon, but people don't remember that. People just say, oh, we should have won it because we should have beaten Germany. They don't say we should have been out because Belgium should have beaten us, or we should have been out because Cameroon should have beaten us. So, but in cup football, that's why I'm talking about, even you bring it back to the league, the best team in the country wins the league. Not the FA Cup, not the Champions League, you win the league. So, but the best team in the world doesn't have to win the World Cup. The best team in Europe doesn't have to win the Euros. Because of course you can be lucky, you can play in a final, one game and be lucky and win it and you're the champions, but the team really should have beaten you because they missed 10 penalties or whatever. But we have a chance. What you have to demand from England now is a consistency, which means that we should be going through the group stages, we should be getting to the quarterfinals, we should be getting to the semi-finals. Then with a bit of luck we can go further. Even with a bit of luck we can win it.